Madam Chair, we are now live.
Thank you for that, Julian. Today is February 23rd, 2021. I call this meeting to order. This is the Public Safety Committee of the City Council. All members of the committee are present via Zoom today. This is a remote or online meeting where all participants will be on a video or audio conference. We are holding this meeting remotely to allow everyone to participate safely while we are conducting business under a public health emergency. We appreciate your patience as meetings are being conducted this way. Members of the public were given the opportunity to address the committee and submit written comments. Staff has informed me that no individuals have signed up to do so for today's meeting. Members of the public, city staff, and media have the ability to view this meeting live through YouTube and Zoom webinar. The live stream can be accessed from most smartphones, tablets, and computers. And for those watching through the live stream, thank you for joining us. Before we start the presentation from Albuquerque Fire Department, I did have a few questions to our APD regarding the anti-Asian violence that we're seeing throughout the nation. We have seen a 1,900% increase in hate crimes across the nation in regards, and this was well before the pandemic started, but certainly was enhanced due to it. So my questions for APD is really what has been in place. I know that early on, back when I think Chief Medina was the DC, he met with business owners and community members who were seeing some of the anti-Asian discrimination and harassment. And of course, we know through the Taste of India, some of those cases have escalated over the years. So what is in place to address some of this anti-Asian violence?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question, and I apologize. I don't know if that's why Commander Linguit was supposed to be here or not, but what we are doing right now is we have the ambassador program. We have officers who have applied for that, approximately 12 officers, and what they're going to do is go to meetings with community members and reach out to find out what their concerns are and to really build a rapport with the community and see what we can do to better serve them. The officers who applied have gone through training with the city in reference to racism and ethics, and we should be testing for those positions within the next month.
Thank you for that, Commander Barker. I would love to have a follow-up with that ambassador program if we can, so that community members know more about it. And also, you know, if there's going to be translation services provided at some of the community meetings, I know that that would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commander. Councilors, if you don't have any other questions, I gave the opportunity previously to other councilors to ask the questions, but if not, we'll jump into the presentation by Albuquerque Fire Department.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, councilors of the committee. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I wanted to give a brief overview of the monthly informational report that we put together to give a picture of what the department is doing on a month-by-month basis. And this every month is published on our website. If you go to cabq.gov/fire on the left-hand column, there's a button that says reports. You can click there and see all our annual reports from 2014 forward, as well as all these monthly reports. So each monthly report on the statistics side has 3 months worth of data so that the public or yourself can see how we stack up month to month and the differences. So on page 1 that we're looking at right now, it shows the calls by type. So the one that's been of interest lately is structure fires. So if you look at the amount of structure fires, which is the center bar graph, it'll show for December and January that we've almost doubled the daily structure fire or monthly structure fires that we've had, as many of you know and have seen on the news. So we break down the top 10 calls for each category of non-medical versus medical, so that the public or anybody else can see what types of calls we're running, where the frequency of those calls, and what the results are. So in the bottom left of this page, it has some statistics for EMS responses, and it shows the number of cardiac arrests, how often we're getting a spontaneous return of circulation, how many transports are done in the system by us, and how many we assist Albuquerque Ambulance with. And the medical response by code is how the call is dispatched by severity. So echo being the most severe, down to the omega, which is essentially a public assist with no medical component. So Mr. Moya, if you go to page 3, please. Here is a quick glance of how many calls each unit is running on a monthly basis. So historically, stations 5, 11, and 12 in Councilor Davis and Councilor Harris's districts are the busiest stations that we have. And that holds true year after year. So we'll break down the number of each type of call in this colored graph by either alarms, community involvement, fires, hazardous material, medical, and other. So you can see as we get towards the 450 mark, really anything above 250 calls a month is an extremely busy unit nationwide. So Mr. Moya, page 5, please. So page 4 kind of reiterates that same thing in a different format. It's the calls by unit. So this is a map if your constituents are wondering which fire stations are in that particular council district, this map overlay will show them that. And there are some areas where they cross boundaries through most of the city, so which is typical of any jurisdiction. Mr. Moya, page 6. So pages in this month's report, pages 6 through 9, kind of highlight the higher profile incidents that we've had. Structure fires, hazardous materials incidents, so that the public and yourselves can see on a monthly basis the type of stuff that we're doing throughout that month. And it gives a detail that's a little further beyond what the SIG alerts would be. And this also allows you the opportunity, if you see something within this report and you are curious about what exactly happened, you could reach out to us and we have a date associated with that. If you haven't already identified the date and the location, we can look into it further for you. So, Mr. Moya, page 10, please. Okay. This page shows the events that we attend throughout the month by various divisions, whether it's fire protection, community involvement, risk reduction, and it gives a brief synopsis of what took place at each of those events and kind of shows who's involved. And there are times we take this opportunity in the section to highlight some of our employees and what they've done throughout the month as well. So, page 11, please. And this page goes a little further, and we pick 2 employees of the fire department every month, and we give some background information on them so that the public can see whose salary they're paying and what these people are about. We want them to get to know us as much as possible. And this is one of the avenues that we've utilized the last couple of years to do that. Page 12, please. And pages 12 and 13 in this month's report is an area we use to highlight the projects that you guys have been gracious enough to sponsor for us. This one is Councilor Jones, page 13 is Councilor Gibson. So we try to show the public and Councilor Bassan what you guys are doing towards public safety as well, and in conjunction with us, so that not only does it provide a talking point, it actually shows the legitimacy of how you're trying to work towards a public safety goal. So page 15, please. Page 15 through pages 23 in this report will give a breakdown of some performance measures for every division within the department. This one happens to be the divisions that are under the fire marshal, and it'll show pertinent statistics, kind of what they've been doing. The bottom one, the fire investigations division, will show the statistics of the structure fires that they investigated. There are times when we have to withhold some of this information because they're still under investigation and it hasn't closed yet. But this will give a breakdown of every division we have. That way, if the constituents really want to know what's going on and they have a question for you, this is a quick reference guide for you or your analysts, or for themselves. They can almost answer their own questions without soliciting further detail from us. So although the content will change month to month. The format remains the same. So every month they can go in and know about where in the hierarchy of the document the items they're looking for will be. So I just wanted to keep it brief. If you have any further questions, then I'll stand for those.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Jones and then Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't actually have a question. I just want to thank the fire department for AFR for all that they do for our city. And Deputy Commander, Deputy Chief Ekus, thank you. You've done a lot for our area, and I especially appreciate the fact that you were able to lead the drive to get a new, what do you call it, repair station? Repair, yes. And that would you tell us just a little bit about how much easier it makes everyone makes it to get your apparatus repaired and in good condition?
Sure, absolutely. I'd like to thank you for your assistance on that specific project. You were instrumental in helping me move forward with it. So for the counselors that don't know, previously in 2008, we only had 3 mechanics actually working on trucks. So we identified the gap, which was long known. But more importantly, we identified a solution for that. What we were able to do was work with an independent broker, identify a property that was held by a developer, have him do the build out and purchase the full project as one, so that we don't have to go through the process much cheaper. So we went from a staff of 7 to a staff of 12, and it was budget neutral in the way that we took a look at all the external vendor contracts and where we were spending the money and identified a huge sum of money that wasn't being spent in the best manner. So even though we added 5 staff members, we cut our maintenance cost by $200,000 last year. First fiscal year of operation.
Deputy Chief, I think your audio is going in and out. I don't know if it's just on my end, but if you can speak a little closer to the mic.
Sure. So in addition to the savings of $200,000 with the increase in staff, we essentially tripled the building size, and we can now put a full-size ladder truck inside that facility, raise the ladder and work on the truck inside, which we previously could not do. And with the 2 acres that we have now, we have the room and the capacity to store the spare units. And 2 months ago was the first time this department had 15 reserve units ready to go, which was a huge accomplishment for us. Previous years, we would run out of units. We've actually put ladder trucks in Suburbans before. But now with all these changes, we have a big enough reserve fleet that we can properly do the preventative maintenance we need to do and absorb the changes in the fleet size based on long-term repairs.
Madam Chair, may I follow up? Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is one of the things that we never think about. It's not sexy and fun, and we don't see things, we don't hear the fire engine, the sirens and all that, but this is one of the things that AFR brought to me that kind of was in my background to help a little bit. And it's amazing. If you haven't visited the site, I know some of us have, it is an absolutely amazing facility, and you have to look at it and say, how in the world did they get anything done prior to doing this? So thank you. We appreciate AFR and everything you do, and anytime you need help to make things happen, don't be afraid to approach the city council. This is what we do. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. And I will say the building is absolutely gorgeous, and loved the tour of it. So Councilor Davis.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And I just want to acknowledge and say thank you, Adam, or Chief. Thank you very much for doing this. I think if APD did such a good job of doing their monthly reports like you did, you'll see, and put all those counselors in there, you'll see them share them even more. So good lessons for us all. I just want to acknowledge 2 things. One, I want to point out to my colleagues as we're starting to think about budget, that slide about sort of the numbers of calls for service and intensity by engine company, rescue unit, and others. As you mentioned, those in the southeast area of town, right, have been for years, not just the busiest in our city by more than double some of the other areas. but consistently are among the top 10 busiest firehouses in the country. Part of our CIP proposal includes money for a new public safety complex at Catherine and San Mateo, which we believe would include an expanded AFR unit to take care of all those extra rescue units, the down and out service that's now a unit that's functioning there in Southeast to help with those calls. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to co-locate some of those services there, and that's part of that plan. And I look forward to the budget process of working with you all at AFR on how to use that effectively. I also want to acknowledge, Chief, just pass along. It wasn't in your bulletin, but I did see it and got a chance to tell Chief Dow. But there was another cool rescue your folks did on Valentine's Day. In fact, there was a dog named Jack, of all things, up in the Eleno Gallegos open space, I think, who got stuck between some boulders because he slipped on some ice. My dog, Jack, was horrified to see that on Twitter, but he was well comforted to know that if Jack skipped between boulders, that AFR will respond and get him out in the cold. It's a great story. I really appreciate it. You do a great job of telling a lot of the rescue stories y'all do for individuals, but add that to the list of really cool things that when there's no one else to call, people call our department and our rescue units, and we appreciate their service. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Davis, and thank you, Deputy Chief. I don't have any additional questions. I'd love to follow up though on some of the calls that we had discussed, and seeing that it's doubled over time, and see what we can do to help prevent some of that moving forward. So love to follow up on you with that. And with no other questions from councillors, I'm going to move on to our next agenda item. Thank you again, Deputy Chief.
Thank you all.
We're going to move on to agenda item A, which is M9, supporting the passage of proposed state legislation, House Bill 156, an act relating to crime prescribing a penalty for criminal sexual penetration by a peace officer on a suspect, victim, witness, or detained person. I move a do pass. And a second from Councillor Bassan. Thank you for that. I just wanted to note from APD that just wanted to follow up on what their current procedures are in regards to this matter.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Acting Commander Dennis Tafoya, and I'm the Acting Commander for Criminal Investigations Division. So the Police Department does support House Bill 156. In fact, in 2020, we began the process of revising our Code of Conduct, SOPs, specifically prohibiting sexual relationships by an officer with any person being detained by that officer. The new policy also has provisions, other provisions, and we're actually nearing completion of the policy. We're actually near completion. It's going through the policy department process, and we've been actually working on it for probably 5 to 6 months, and it's going to closely match with the House Bill 156. This updated SOP will specifically address sexual assaults committed by an officer while conducting a lawful interaction with a citizen. And I would also point out that we do have a special order that every prisoner allegation of sexual assault be investigated by our sex crimes unit. And then also, if protocol permits, a SANE exam to be taken.
Thank you for that, Commander Tafoya. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one that seems very obvious to me, and that is if any person violates the law, to including police officers, hasn't it always been illegal for police officer to be involved in an act relating to crime prescribing a penalty for criminal sexual penetration by a police officer on a suspect, victim, witness, or detained person? Isn't that already in place? Isn't that already illegal? And aren't there already penalties on it? Is this a a redundancy that I see no problem if it's already in place, but why are we doing it again? Isn't this already a violation of the law?
Yes, thank you, Council Jones. So our current SOP, it does forbid officers from violating individual constitutional rights. It's not specific to sexual relations with interactions with victims, witnesses, and so forth. The new SOP is going to explicitly prohibit the sexual relations. But to answer your question, yes, ma'am, it is already covered in the books. It's more general. The new SOP will be more specific.
Councilor Jones, would you like to follow up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand the SOPs are being rewritten, but that's not what this says. This says this is a piece of legislation. I was just curious if it wasn't, and just a direct question, is it not already against the law for anyone, but most especially a police officer, to participate in any of these acts?
Yes, you are correct. Anybody under the current statute reads anybody under the authority, which a person being detained would be under the authority of a police officer. Yes, you are correct in that the current statute does cover it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Jones. Councilor Bassan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that I understand where Councilor Jones is coming from, and that's where, when reading this memorial, my first thought was, it's ridiculous that we are at a point in this world that we have to send a memorial to say such things. But when we have to be so specific, if that's what it's going to take, then I absolutely support making sure that the law applies to everybody and that it's well laid out and well spelled out in the legislation. So while I also see where you're coming from, Councilor Jones, I also am completely on board with let's make it as specific as need be to make sure that we cover all the bases. And I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilor Bassan. In evaluating this bill, and I just want to clarify for the public as well. When you said that we were updating, APD was updating the SOP, that's the standard operating procedures, right? Commander Tafoya.
Madam Chair, yes, that is correct.
Yes, thank you for that, Commander. I wanted to clarify because, as we know, it is in the law books that you aren't allowed to do this if you're a person under someone's authority. But this is just clearly laying out specifically that those that are detained can't exactly consent to acts such as that. And as Councilor Bassan stated, it is a bit dumbfounding that we have to pass policies that specifically lay that out. And I'm glad that APD is leading the charge in that and making it more specific and detailed. So I just appreciate APD's efforts in that regard. Councilors, any other questions? All right, the motion is for a due pass, which was seconded. Ms. Hinojos, can you call the roll call?
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton is excused. Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor Sena.
Yes.
That passes the majority of your vote.
Thank you, Ms. Hinojos. I'm going to move this for immediate action so that this can be sent to the legislature in time. Councillor Bassan, is that a second? Thank you. Councillor Davis? Oh, was that just also a second? All right, thank you. Ms. Hinojos, unless there's any discussion?
Councillor Bassan.
Yes.
Councillor Benton is excused. Councillor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Passes on a 4-0 vote.
Thank you for that, counselors. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is item B, R136. And I'm moving this for Counselor Borrego, approving grants funds awarded for the FY21 Waste Isolation Pilot Program with the New Mexico Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department and providing for an appropriation to Albuquerque Fire Rescue in fiscal year 2021. I move a due pass. Second from Counselor Bassan and Davis. Counselors, any questions or comments from admin? Dr. Davis, you have your hand raised still. Is that a question? Nope. All right, no questions. Then we're going to move for the vote. Missy Milhouse?
Counselor Bassan,
Yes.
Counselor Benton is still excused. Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Counselor Jones,
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
That passes on a 4-0 vote.
Thank you. Just in half an hour. Great. There being no further business, this Public Safety Committee